Did you two get to catch up? Eh?
Matthew, please! Matthew, please!
Please, Matthew. They obviously did more than catch up. A bit of Twilight Tango? Sensual salsa? I bet he dipped right in.
Norrin! Would you stop? Please! You have... Oh my god. I'm going to go splash cold water on my face now.
War we're deep within. I can't go through it alone, and I won't leave you on your own. I stand before you now and promise you I am not afraid. I will fight and guide the way. We will rise again to glory then. We'll soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe.
Sup guys, the name's Art Dragnell and welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War. So last we left off, are we having relationship problems? Because I have no idea what's going on and something is preventing me from hugging my bae, Erik. And yeah, we're in the demon world now. We're stuck. And yeah, you know the rest. Let us continue then. I felt insanely nervous. This entire situation was beyond my imaginations. Stuck in the demon world under two kinds of enchantments? That was unreal, even for me. Still, we were going to work towards finishing this war and getting me home. We had to do everything we can to keep our focus straight. As Erik and I were escorted to our room, I felt the need to cling to Erik's arm. It had only been a day since I had been taken away from the human world, but for the longest time I had to be enthralled to get close to him. Now I was freely and willingly able to hold on to Erik's arm. Let's hug him! Let's hug his arm! I couldn't help it. I needed to feel closer to him after all of this time. Being separated was not something any bride wanted from their soon-to-be partner. I wrapped my arms around Erik's arm, hearing him chuckle and lay his free hand over my arms lovingly.
You know, I wanted to walk down the aisle with you as your husband. I was so worried when you didn't show up to the ceremony.
My heart sank as I looked down. I hadn't wanted to leave him at the altar, but the demon lord had other plans. I gritted my teeth before feeling Erik's lips on my temple, causing me to look back up at him.
I know it wasn't your doing, love. Don't be upset. You weren't gone long.
Not gone long. I had been in the abyssal plains for a full day. How was that not long? How long was I missing for? Erik rubbed his neck and looked away, a small blush forming on his cheeks.
Around 5 hours.
5 hours? I was here a full day. How does that work?
Well, time runs differently here than it does in the human world. In the time it takes for an hour to go by in the human world, 5 go by here in the demon world.
My mind spun slightly at the idea. Time moved differently here? I shook my head and let it go. At least I wasn't gone for long in the human world. What happened when you found out that I was missing?
Well, your father was demanding that Sam open a missing persons investigation since he's a police officer. Luckily, James was able to calm everyone down and, with Irides's energy, he blocked everyone's memory and told them to return home and the real wedding would begin later.
James can do that?
Only with his wife's help. That gave us time to try to locate you. When we did, We all decided to come through to get you back.
I could only imagine what it had been like. All of them huddled in a room trying to find me. I felt a little flattered, but I knew that it was because they all cared about me, the wives included. I was happy that they did, and that I was back with Erik at last. Our walk continued until I entered my old room with Erik. Our guide left us alone, needing to prep for the rest of the day. Erik sat on the bed, ushering me to sit beside him. Like a magnet, I was drawn to him, sitting beside him. It was a major relief for my mind to know that everything was going to be taken care of. It was an even larger relief to know that I could be with the man I loved in the meantime. I laid my head on Erik's shoulder as he wrapped an arm around me.
Are you really okay?
I nodded. The only thing that was wrong was me being trapped, but there was nothing I could do until we got to the Demon Lord. Erik seemed to know this as well and kissed over my head.
Well, at least you were no longer disgusted by me.
I was never disgusted by you. No, do not say that. Erik. Yes, I was never disgusted by you. You are my bae, and I love you. I need to hug you now. And maybe kiss you all over your face. Okay. The feeling of love ran through my body as I settled into the situation. I could finally hold him and love him as I meant to instead of being cruel. It was a blessing. Erik nodded once again before hugging me softly to him, laying us back across the bed. I wrapped my arms unconsciously around him and listened to the rhythm of his breathing. It was slow, relaxed, which made me in turn feel at peace.
We'll get to go home soon.
I know. I closed my eyes, letting our embrace slowly entice me to sleep. It didn't bother me that I was dressed with my boots still on. It was such a peaceful transition. I barely felt the shift between being awake and being asleep. I held Erik close to me, listening to his heartbeat. The simple syncopation of it filled my heart with such joy that I could not deny the smile on my face from stretching further. Whatever held me for so long no longer had a hold of my mind and my body, allowing my heart to once again guide my actions. As I slept, however, a voice I had not heard in a while reappeared.
Why? Why did you do that?
Do what? Huh? Within the darkness of my dreams appeared a familiar purple orb, floating in the vast space. I felt once again charmed by it, but I was more confused as to why it was in my dream and why it had asked me such a question. You.
Why would you do that?
Do what? What are you doing here?
I don't understand.
What are you doing here? I had to repeat myself. The orb didn't move or change, but something about looking at it made me feel unsure. Why was the spirit haunting me?
I don't understand why you like him.
Because he's loving and caring and adorable and... yeah, all that. Why I like... Erik? Wait, was this spirit the reason why I was aggressive to Erik? Yes, it was. I glared at the orb, suddenly putting two and two together. You were the one who made me act so cruel toward him?
He's icky. He's an icky man.
He's not an icky man. Jesus Christ, you know nothing. He's the man I love. I loved him dearly and didn't want to treat him like I did. If I was being forced, then I needed to stop the one who was forcing me.
Loving a person doesn't make them less icky.
Shut up! What is so icky about him?
He talks funny. He keeps touching you. He has those...
Sex eyes, I guess? Yup. Sex eyes?
Yeah! He's so icky. Icky!
Stop calling him icky.
I'm not as disgusting as you make me out to be, Spirit.
Wow, would you look at that? Speak of the devil. I was just about to call. My heart jumped at the sound of Erik's voice. In front of me appeared a reddish shadow which quickly formed itself into Erik. The orb seemed to pulsate at the sight of him.
Icky man.
He's not icky.
My name is Erik, and you are not welcome in my princess's dreams or her body.
You're not either.
Erik. Erik looked back to me and smiled before stepping forward, making the orb back away a bit. I couldn't tell if it was in fear or anger, but the pulsing energy around the orb seemed to become larger at Erik's stare.
My duty is to protect my princess from anything that threatens her. You, rogue spirit, are considered a threat.
All you do is touch her and take her energy.
That's not true!
What else does the icky man do?
I opened my mouth to retort, but suddenly froze, feeling my thoughts escape me. For some reason, I couldn't remember anything else Erik had done except for what the spirit said. Hey, no, there's more things, and I can't even think of them myself. Wow, okay. He would kiss me, hold me, and take my energy. This was wrong. Something was definitely wrong. Why couldn't I pin down more things Erik did for me? I held my head and shut my eyes, trying to focus harder on my thoughts. Erik, however, stepped towards the orb, a group of ethereal tendrils emerging from his back. Jesus Christ, not the tendrils again.
That's enough. You don't belong here, spirit.
I expected the spirit to fight back, but it didn't say anything more. After a moment of silence, the spirit faded into the darkness of the dream. Erik and I both let out a small sigh of relief.
Are you okay?
I'm better now. Erik nodded before wrapping his arms around me.
I swear that I will keep you safe.
The words Erik spoke resounded in my chest, making me feel light and believe every word that escaped his lips. I felt safe enough just to hear his determination. I can't think of a determination line. The fact that Erik is hugging you fills you with determination. I guess? I don't know. Still, I couldn't help but feel a small restlessness in my body, despite being in a dream. I thought that sleeping would help my anxiousness at the situation I was in, but it only made me more worried. With this new fear in my mind, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to hold out until we defeated the Demon Lord. A spirit was really actually haunting my thoughts. This was insane, to say the least. Still, the spirit was quelled for now, at least until we found a way to expel it from my body. I woke that morning before Erik, physically refreshed but mentally troubled. The event that ran through my dreams both bewildered me and scared me. How long was the spirit going to be stuck to me? A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts and woke Erik.
Who's there?
Shirtless Erik! Shirtless Erik! Shirtless Erik! I'm going to I'm screaming internally anyway. Be splashing water on my face. Okay. Never mind.
It's us. We brought food.
Hi, Norrin!
Can we come in?
Hi, Matthew. Yes. Huh? Sure. Ah, James and Iridessa! The thought of food made me relax a bit and forget about the circumstances I was under. The door opened to reveal the other incubi and their wives, holding plates of food. James and Iridessa, however, each carried 2 full plates, passing one to me and Erik.
Oh, thank you, James.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
You'll never guess who prepared it, though.
My mind instantly went to Matthew or James. Yes, because Matthew and James are really good cooks. Yay. But it's not them. I know that. They were usually the ones who made food when they lived in my house. Still, it could have been Damien as well. Oh, never thought about that. But then my mind cycled to the rebel leaders and Diana. We were in their castle as their guests, so it made sense if they made us food. Diana especially. Looking down at my plate, I noticed a selection of food. Fruit slices, bread, cheese, and some form of meat jerky. It seemed native to the demon world, but it was indeed human food. Using process of elimination, I decided that it was probably Diana.
How did you both sleep? Our rooms are on the opposite end of the hall, so we didn't know how you two were doing.
Did you two get to catch up?
Matthew, please! Matthew, please!
Please, Matthew. They obviously did more than catch up. A bit of Twilight Tango? Sensual salsa? I bet he dipped right in.
Norrin! Would you stop? Please! You have... Oh my god. I'm going to go splash cold water on my face now. Oh my god. Let me not. Just. Oh my god. Getting on with the plot.
Well,
Erik and I looked at each other, ignoring Norin's innuendo as we thought of the seriousness of the situation. Did we want to tell them what was going on? Explain, eat your food. Explain, eat your food. I don't know. I think I'll explain. I didn't want Erik to be the one to explain. The spirit was in my body and it was my problem. I motioned for Erik to eat before turning to the group and starting my explanation. Well, there's something we found out last night. I haven't been in control of myself because of something.
What did you find out?
Wait, you're not saying that...
Hey, are you pregnant?
No, I'm not! I'm not pregnant! I'm not. Nope, not even thinking. If I am pregnant, no. Noping away. Erik choked. I quickly turned my head to see Erik covering his mouth and coughing almost violently, most likely trying to not to suffocate on the food in his mouth. He quickly swallowed his food and smiled painfully at the group. Oh my god, I can't.
no. She is not pregnant.
Thank you for confirming. Erik was right. This was a whole different matter. For a second, I wondered what Erik thought about the question, but more importantly, we needed to let the group know what was going on. Oh shit.
Is having a child that bad?
The room around me seemed to freeze as the spirit's voice appeared in the air. I looked around and noticed that everyone, including Erik, was still. What?
The icky man doesn't think so.
What do you mean? In the middle of the room, the spirit appeared, making me gasp. It floated over to Erik and spun around his head, making him light up slightly.
Well, if she were pregnant, I'd be able to expand my legacy.
Can you not? Can you not? Please. Erik? Was that what he was thinking? He wanted children to expand. No, this was a trick. I glared at the orb as it finally moved back to the center of the room. You're lying to me. Whatever you're trying to do won't work.
I'm not doing anything. Just look at him.
I did, wanting to prove the spirit wrong. However, my eyes couldn't lie to me. He had a nervous, almost pondering smile on his face, as if he was keeping quiet about his thoughts. Were the thoughts I heard really Erik's? Why not ask Damien if he heard his thoughts? That would be a good thing to do. To be honest, to see if he was lying. 'Cause Damien could read minds.
He's an icky man.
No, he's not. Would you stop saying that?
It's true. He wants to make babies with you. You heard so yourself.
I would not mind that, but at the same time I do mind. I'm just gonna... Okay. He didn't say that. But in a way, he did. Expand his legacy? Who says that? Then again, the look on his face couldn't lie to me. The more I gazed into his eyes, the more I could see a form of disappointment. Was I overthinking it?
He keeps touching you and trying to make you feel good. He wants to make you have his babies.
Shut up, man. Yeah, stop it. I didn't want to hear it. This was something I had to figure out myself. If this spirit was telling the truth, which I doubted, then I would deal with Erik when the time came. However, the primary problem was that this spirit was still inside of my body. I looked at the floating orb, seeing it bop up and down in place. So how long do you plan on sticking around?
Sticking around?
How long do you plan on being in my body?
Oh. I don't know.
It didn't know? I wanted to stand up, but I felt my body stay in its place. I guess, in whatever phase the spirit had me in, I could only shift my head, but not move from my spot. That only proved that this was in my head. You don't know?
I don't know.
How do you not know?
I just don't. I tried, but I can't get out.
This was proving to be useless. As childlike and innocent sounding the spirit was, this conversation was obviously going to go nowhere. I sighed and lowered my head, closing my eyes.
I was trapped when I died too, you know?
Huh? I looked up at the spirit, suddenly curious. They were trapped when they died? As the world began to move again around me, the orb vanished without a trace.
We have a different issue. My princess is being haunted by a spirit.
A spirit? But I can't hear its thoughts.
You can't catch everything, Damien.
Aw.
That doesn't make sense. If a spirit's inside of her body, we would have sensed it.
That's the odd part. There's someone within her, but they are not powerful enough to be pinned down. It's as if...
It's a child.
It's a child! Ah, he knows! Yes! How did you know?
Spirits of children are extremely versatile, miss. They are smaller and less noticeable than a regular spirit, but their emotions run just as high, if not higher, making them more powerful.
So a child made you fight Erik?
Yes, it also called Erik the Icky Man.
Well, you were for a long time, dude. You can't deny that.
Shut up, Matthew! That's not the point! Even though he was, but that's not the point!
That was before I met my princess.
Oh my god, he even admitted it. Okay. I looked to Erik as he looked back to me. His eyes were full of love and appreciation as he smiled down at me, making a small blush run across my cheeks. Erik gently lifted his hand and caressed my cheek, making my face warm up at his touch.
You changed me for the better and turned me into a proper man. I would never wish for you to feel that I am disgusting.
You're not! You're not. Erik. Kiss his cheek. Erik was so sweet to think of me. I loved him for everything that he was and is. He was occasionally perverted and seductive now and then, but that was part of the charm I fell for. Exactly. Me, exactly. He was still my Erik. As I kissed his cheek, Erik gasped and I could feel a quick forming warmth appear on his cheek under my lips. I pulled away and noticed a red tint across his face, but a loving smile still plastered on his expression.
Should we leave? They look like they're ready to make those babies now. Ow!
Ha! Matthew, you need to shut up. I love you, you cinnamon bun, but shut up.
Knock it off, Matthew.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Before anyone could laugh, however, another knock appeared at the door. Who is it?
Diana, dear. May I come in?
Sure, come on in. Sarah! As Diana entered, the room became silent. Her guard, Seto, followed behind Diana and stepped into the room as well, closing the door for her. He remained by the door as Diana looked at my plate.
Did you not enjoy breakfast? I can make you something else if you'd like.
Huh? I quickly looked down at my plate and realizing that I had barely touched my food, I shook my head and looked up at Diana. No, this is great. We were just talking.
I see.
Thank you for breakfast, by the way.
My pleasure. I'm sorry that it's not much, but it's something to fill the stomach.
It's all good. It's better than that stew that everyone else was eating.
Oh, jeez.
We had stew?
Oh, Norin, please, no. You don't need to know about the stew. Okay, if you go back to my Matthew route, I was with Faye. I was training with Faye, the fairy, and they told me about the stew, what the actual stew was. So, if you want to know what the actual stew is, you should go back there if you don't want me to spoil what the stew was. Because I ain't saying shit. I don't want to spoil what the stew is. Okay. Anyways. Norin, please, you don't need to know.
Trust me, don't worry about it. You're not missing much.
Listen to Twyla, Norin. Listen to Twyla.
Indeed. Anyways, I came by to ask you something, dear.
Huh? Ask me what?
What exactly is going on? What was controlling you last night when your husband came around?
Right. Diana still didn't know what happened. Oh, well, we were just talking about that. As I stared at Diana, I felt something inside me grow very happy. Why would I be? She was feeding us. Oh, why wouldn't I be? She was feeding us and making sure we were at least comfortable. Hell, she was going to break the curse on me and kill the demon lord. At least I hoped she would. Still, something felt odd about the way I felt. I shook my head and looked to Erik. He nodded and looked at Diana, causing her attention to turn to him.
A rogue spirit has taken refuge in her body.
A spirit?
How? We felt no such.
It's a child, Diana.
I'm just going back to the bloopers, listening to the bloopers when Bradley is like, "It's a child, Diana. I'm pregnant. You're the father." I'm just remembering that blooper. Oh my god, I can't. There was another one. I'm not gonna say it though.
A mere child? What kind of child has that much anger and sadness that they can control the human body?
My lady, if I may.
I also remember that line. My lady, if I may, I would like to punch you in the butt. I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Everyone in the room, myself included, looked to Sero, who had stepped forward by Diana's side. Diana took a moment to watch Sero, measuring his intentions before nodding and stepping back. With a nod, Sero turned away from her and looked to me. Sero stepped once more in my direction before bringing his spear up and pointing it at me. What? Whoa!
What are you doing?
Without answering, Sero continued to stare at me intensely. The spear in his hand began to glow a bright golden white color, making me that much more concerned.
Sanctus et husec siamentes!
Before anyone could jump at Sero, the guard leaned forward and merely an inch towards me, pressing the spear closer to my body. Shit. However, it was stopped by a bright white magic barrier that suddenly formed around my body, and the sound of a child screaming. The cry rang violently in my head, causing me to grip my head in pain. Gah!
Princess!
Erik reached for me, but found himself pressing against the shield as well, unable to get close to me. The sharp tip of Sero's spear pressed against the barrier, causing white ripples to wave from it. Sero pushed the spear harder, trying to pierce through. The screaming, however, intensified in my head with each push.
What in the seven hells?
I've never seen magic like that before.
I can hear it. The spirit is crying inside her head. It's hurting her.
Damn it!
Sero finally pulled back and stepped away from me. The glow around his spear vanished, and Sero looked to Diana. The screaming in my mind stopped at last, and the barrier finally vanished, allowing Erik to wrap his arms around me and pull me close to him.
This spirit is extremely powerful, my lady. Powerful enough to block holy magic.
What?
That's impossible.
I quivered in Erik's embrace, feeling the after effects of the sudden event hit my body like a wave. My nerves were vibrating and every hair on my body was on edge. My eyes, despite this, looked to Diana and Sero. Diana looked at me and suddenly glared.
Clever spirit.
Clever spirit? What do you mean?
Look at who the spirit is haunting. She's practically bleeding endless waves of energy. The spirit must be consuming it to survive and use its abilities.
The entire room looked to me and I could see in their eyes that she was right. Was I really that full of energy? What kind of energy? How did the amount of energy I had affect this?
The spirit is a demon, then?
Only a demon could make a barrier like that.
But a barrier against holy magic?
It's unheard of.
Not necessarily. If a demon is powerful enough, they can block holy magic, but it takes a large amount of energy.
Oh, Erik is silent.
We have to find another way to expel it. If holy magic won't work, something else will. Spirits can't bind themselves to living bodies forever.
Yeah, we'll get this spirit out one way or another.
Would we? The spirit was powerful enough to fight back against holy magic, which apparently was powerful on its own. I became nervous once again. Erik, feeling me tense up in his arms, gave my body a small squeeze in comfort. I closed my eyes, feeling his warmth slowly but surely calming me down.
Whatever the case may be, I'm sure we've at least weakened it. It shouldn't attempt to control you again, at least for today.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, what would the others teach me? Diana ran a hand through her hair, looking to the side as she listed off each leader and their skills.
Sergeant is a brute demon, bred from a nomadic tribe. He most likely teach you the ways of the brute demon, using your fists and speed to keep you alive. Shadow is, by definition, a shadow demon, so he'd probably teach you about dark magic, light manipulation, and assassination. Rabbit is a wild magic-based animal demon, using her animal-focused energy as her weapon. She'd probably teach you how to do the same. Fae? I am honestly not sure. I know they can change their size and use elemental magic as well, but to be honest, I do not know what they would teach you.
Okay, so... Oh yeah, I mentioned last time that I was gonna choose Shadow. So I'm like, you know what? Since Erik is my bane, since Shadow is like one of my favorite characters in the castle, even though he's arrogant little shit, I'm gonna choose to train with him. I mean, his powers are really cool. To manipulate Shadow, and he's an assassinate. He assassinates things. I'm like, that's perfect. That's perfect, you know? So I'll choose to train with Shadow. Diana nodded. Shadow seemed very intelligent and knew the ins and outs of being sneaky and dodgy. It would definitely help in battle not to get hit and maybe take enemies by surprise. With that, Diana turned on her heel and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Everyone in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Sarah left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun. Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
As we all finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. The Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. Choosing Shadow defied almost every part of my moral compass. He seemed like a fantastical sociopath, lacking a care for anyone but the war and himself. Still, I had to admit his personality made me curious about his abilities. After all, he was the one that almost sent me back home through Diana's shadow. As the memory of the void filled my thoughts, I began to try and dissect how it was done. Were the shadows doorways here? Was Shadow just that powerful? How exactly was he able to a person's shadow into a void through the world? I don't get that, but okay. Maybe that was the reason why I chose him as my trainer. My curiosity about his abilities were pecking at me, and I needed answers. Learning some of those abilities myself was just the icing on the cake. I was guided to the library by a scout, most likely under orders, and found Shadow reading through scrolls on the table near the fireplace. Upon me entering, Shadow looked over.
Ah, there you are. Come, sit.
Shadow motioned a hand towards one of the seats almost dismissively as he continued to pore over what he was reading. I followed his directions and sat down in the chair, watching him. For a full minute, he said nothing. I watched as he read each line off of the scrolls before him and occasionally switched scrolls to read what the others had written down on them. The handwriting was in hastily scribbled Latin, so there was no way for me to understand it. However, I began to feel a little agitated. Weren't we supposed to be training? Excuse me, but we need to get to training now. I needed to get his attention. This was a little ridiculous. Was he not told that he was supposed to actually train me? Why would he expect me, though? Despite my statement, Shadow continued to ignore me and kept browsing through the scrolls on the table. Shadow. Still nothing. I was becoming even more agitated at the silence. I decided to simply stand, hopefully to catch his attention. However, as I attempted to, I felt myself unable to push off against the chair, like I was stuck to the seat. Huh? I looked down at the chair I was in. It was a simple chair. How was I stuck? I wiggled a bit in my seat, noting that I wasn't sitting on anything sticky, nor was anything keeping me down physically. What the hell? I attempted to stand once more, unable to move any farther than a centimeter up from the seat before needing to sit back down.
Do you understand now, human?
I looked up at Shadow, seeing him continue to visually ignore me, but noticed a small smirk on his lips. He was holding me down somehow?
When you can stand, we will begin.
Jesus. Okay, whatever. I'll figure it out somehow. My eyes widened. This was a test. This was an unfair trap of a test that I fell into, and now I had to find my way out. I had to figure out how he was trapping me to the chair and stand. This was going to be an adventure and a half. I looked down and around my body on the seat, seeing my shadow beneath me. It was pretty obvious that he was using my shadow to hold me down, but the question was, how was I going to break its hold? I took a moment and let my thoughts dissect the problem. He was holding me by the shadow. He had to have been. It only made sense. If I somehow made my shadow disappear, then his hold would vanish along with it. However, how was I going to do that? My shadow was beneath me, formed by the shape of my body in the firelight. Then it hit me. The firelight. I looked at the fireplace, seeing it burn bright from the pyro within its mouth. It illuminated the room and gave every person and object a shadow. As I stared into it, my plan became set. I smirked as I gripped the armrests and planted my feet onto the floor. I pulled the chair up on one of its legs, pushing it off the ground with my foot, and completely turned the chair around, facing away from it. My entire body became covered in shadow, but I knew my plan had worked. I no longer felt a hold on me, keeping me in the chair. My shadow vanished in the new darkness around me. I quickly pushed off the chair, finally being able to stand. It seemed so freeing to be able to stand again, having been trapped in that chair. As I felt my body standing up straight, Shadow let out an impressed,
Quicker than I anticipated.
I glared. Did he honestly think that little of me? Seriously? I had to stare at Shadow like he had 5 heads. As he turned to me, he smirked at my facial expression, causing me to fight back the urge to snap at him. See? He's an arrogant little fucker. But I still like him anyway because of his sarcastic remarks and that he's kinda hot.
I had to see how intelligent you were. I'm not going to waste time on someone who doesn't know how to use their brain.
Despite the insult, I could feel that he was underhandedly complimenting me in some twisted way. I guess what I was able to pull out of his statement was that I was smart enough to fend for myself. I could tell that this was going to be both an annoying process, but at least an interesting one. Shadow shook his head and stepped away from the table and towards me. He gripped the chair I was on and turned it back around to face the fireplace before crossing his arms.
What I will be teaching you are mere basics of dark magic. You will be able to hide in plain sight, control your environment, and even defend against impossible odds. I expect you to use these abilities wisely. Understood?
Yes, sir. And he does dark magic. I totally forgot about that. The fact that he does dark magic, I'm interested. I suddenly became excited. I would be able to do all of those things? The idea of it all became rather fascinating and outright too good to be true. However, I was in the demon world. Anything was possible. I nodded and mentally prepared for whatever he threw my way. I wouldn't fall for another trap. Shadow took in a breath and let out a silent sigh before closing his eyes. His body slowly became pitch black, covered by a wave of shadow despite the firelight on his body. His form slowly melted down into the ground and faded into the shadow of the table beside him. What? I became confused, but as I stood for a moment, there was only silence as a reply. Was this what he meant by using my brain? I had to copy him? How did he even do that? How was I going to even start trying? You're not going to tell me how you did that? I was once again greeted with silence, making me let out a sigh. I had to figure it out. I replayed the spell in my head from memory, trying to discern how he made himself into a shadow. Maybe I had to think about becoming a shadow. Did that even make sense? Whew. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine darkness covering me. As stupid as it sounded, it was worth a shot. However, as I did, something in my nerves seemed to make me hesitate. I could sense a feeling of cold dread trying to take over my body as I thought about the darkness. Was this something I was supposed to feel? I suddenly felt scared I felt suddenly scared and started to second guess my desire to learn about dark magic. Do not second guess yourself. I want to learn this. Me, myself, and I. I'm interested in dark magic. Me personally.
Why are you hesitating?
I heard Shadow's voice rumble through the air, causing me to question the training. Did I want to go through with this? Hell yeah! I shook my head. I needed to be brave about this. It was a new set of skills I could use in battle. I just had to take it slow. I closed my eyes again and took a deep breath and focused on becoming a shadow. A cold feeling ran through my body, crawling over my skin and completely enveloping me in its embrace. Soon, my entire body had become surrounded in frozen numbness. As I opened my eyes, I gasped at the sight. Shadow was once again in front of me, but the room around us had become visually dark and misty, like I was in another world. My body felt light as I stepped towards my trainer in confusion. Shadow lifted an arm and gestured dismissively around us towards the environment.
Welcome to the Shadow Plane.
The Shadow Plane?
Indeed. Think of it as a copy of the real world. But no one lives here except shadows.
I furrowed my eyebrows, still confused, but gasped as I heard quick footsteps rushing out of the door. I was shocked to see demons in black hoods and cloaks running back and forth along the hall. What the hell?
Those are my scouts. They use this plane to travel without being hindered by other beings. They're much quicker this way.
I looked at the ground, seeing it coated completely black in darkness. How was I able to be here if this was a new plane? I thought I was trapped in the demon world. How can I be here if I'm cursed?
This plane is part of the demon world, so the curse does not affect you coming here. We are currently shadows of the real world, untouchable and barely traceable.
I nodded, taking in what he was saying, so I was able to roam around now and not be seen. This was an interesting power. Shadow began to walk out of the room, ushering me to follow him.
Come, you will see the benefit of this world in action.
I quickly followed, excited to see what we were going to do. Where would we go? What was he going to show me? Shadow and I walked quietly through the halls. I could faintly see the outlines of people who were not in the shadow plane and became shocked to see shadows simply pass through them as if they weren't there. As a couple of people passed through me, I felt instinctively strange, but physically felt nothing. It was like I was a ghost. We truly were shadows. As we arrived at the war room, Shadow stopped me and peered inside. I crouched and looked through the door as well, hiding out of instinct. Inside were Diana and a person covered by a cloak. Diana's face painted the situation's emotions very clearly as one of agitation towards the girl who stood before her at attention.
Shama, I understand that he didn't accept it, but where did you take it?
I was told to throw it away.
Your master told you to throw it away?
As I said, ma'am.
Diana gazed at the hooded figure, burying her stare into her soul. However, Diana could only sigh. What was Diana asking about? What did the figure throw away?
Very well. You are dismissed.
Oh, the demon bowed and left the room, passing through me in shadow. It still felt weird that people were able to go through me, but I shook it out as Shadow cleared his throat.
Scare the succubus.
What? Oh, jeez, it just said the same thing I was saying. What? I looked up at Shadow, surprised at his demand. However, his cold gaze pierced back into mine, letting me know that he was serious about what he had asked of me. I instantly became nervous and a little fearful. I had to scare Diana. How? The idea of appearing behind her came to mind, but Shadow seemed to know what I was thinking.
Scare her from this plane.
Now things became complicated. This was a space where I was just walking through people. How was I going to even face her in this world? I looked into the room, taking note of everything. The light in the room was pretty bright. Her shadow was cast against the wall, mimicking Diana's actual movements. Was I able to do anything with that? What about the light in the room? Was it possible to dim the lights like a ghost? It seemed a bit complicated, but it could be fun. I took a moment to think before deciding. Mess with the lights, mess with her shadow. I want to mess with her shadow. That seems fun. It seemed like the most simple plan, so I decided to go through with it. I quickly rushed in and hugged the wall next to Diana's shadow. With a closer view, the shadow seemed almost as detailed as the real person. Every strand of hair had a pigment of darkness. It was kind of cool the more I stared, but I had a job to do. I focused on her head, noting the horns protruding from it. The shadow made it look like she had ears. Fairly cute. Maybe that could do something. I raised a hand and ran my fingers along the horns of her shadow, hoping to grasp it somehow. Oh shit. Going back to Diana's route, if you haven't seen it, please go back, but because I'm about to spoil a little something. So it's like, okay, when you're doing that sexy time with Diana, because it's not really a sex scene or whatever, she's just giving us pleasure. Anyways, when I was doing that sex scene for Diana, like, the character gripped her horns, and she let out moans, and that was her weak spot. The horns were weak spots, and seeing that I'm running my fingers along it, it's gonna make her moan. Just watch. Just watch. What did I tell you? Suddenly, I shot my head to Diana as she released a moan. She bent over the table, gripping the horn I caressed via shadow with a slightly shaky hand. What the hell? Did I do that? Diana looked around, her face as red as a tomato. Were her horns a weakness? I grazed my fingers along her shadow against over her other horn out of curiosity. Diana gripped her other horn and bent over further, hiding her horns in her shadow. Damn. However, I became mildly excited. I could touch her without touching her. This made no sense, but it was working. I could only guess that this was the power of shadow demons. Diana stood up straight, taking in a breath before letting out a sigh.
Dear, I know you're there.
Oh! Hi! What the hell? How did she know? As Shadow switched to the real world, I felt my body force itself back as well, like I had run out of energy. I finally felt warmth consume my body, making me feel dizzy and lightheaded. Gah. What?
She's done quite well. She went into the shadow plane without much hesitation.
I see.
I naturally hugged the wall, feeling the after effects of the transfer dance over my body like a rippling waves of wind. It felt so strange. I knew I still had a lot of energy, but I wasn't able to stay in the shadow plane for long.
I'm surprised she managed to stay there for as long as she did. I expected her to phase out before we came here.
To do what, exactly?
Shadow stared at Diana blankly before turning toward the door and walking out.
Come. We have more work to do, human.
The irritated look on Diana's face looked semi-hilarious, but I shook my head and ran after Shadow, pumped to learn more. How did I do all of that?
Curious, are you?
Well, yeah. I am your student after all. I want to know. As we walked back to the library, Shadow looked to me and gave a slight smirk.
You are quite interesting for a human.
Oh, why thank you. I felt a bit flattered and ran my hand behind my neck, bearing a shy smile. I had to admit, I was acting like a little girl who had just learned about candy. Still, I had a very good reason. I did something I never imagined I could do. It was well worth the excitement. Shadow shook his head and let out a sigh.
While it is impossible for us to touch anyone in the shadow plane, let alone assassinate them, it is very possible to distract them or affect the light sources of the world.
That's cool, actually. That's really, really cool. Like how I did?
Indeed. A shadow is more than just a reaction to light. It is also a part of a person's being, able to be used to, let's just say, get a message across.
So I can't kill anyone from the shadow plane?
No, but you can very easily make them feel as if they aren't alone, putting them on alert and giving you a good chance to kill them while they're distracted.
I took a moment to take in what he meant. I could see how manipulating the shadows were a great benefit in battle. However, apparently I had a time limit for how long I could be in the shadows. At least it wasn't entirely overpowered. The remainder of the day became focused on me manipulating light and shadow in the library. While being in the shadow plane was fun, it was only effective if the targets of my movements were either sources of light or had distinct shadows of their own. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. Who knew that using dark magic would be so difficult? Still, I guess that I had potential, or else I wouldn't have succeeded in passing the test. Shadow threw at me. I had to be proud of that. I had to be proud of that much. I slumped and fell onto the ground, exhausted. After I definitely used up a lot of energy, and it was a foreign feeling to me as a human. It was like my body became heavier with each breath I took, but it wasn't entirely painful. A small huff caused me to look over at Shadow, seeing him stare at me intensely with crossed arms. What?
For a human, you have a large amount of energy. I'm surprised you're not a witch.
I mean, I could be a warlock like my grandfather. That's probably it. I felt a little bolstered by the statement, despite how strangely it was phrased. I guess Shadow really couldn't genuinely compliment anyone. I wondered why. I had much to learn, but was excited for the next day as my training ended and I was sent to my room. I fell onto my bed, exhausted. My body felt completely at the mercy of the fluffy mattress beneath me. Today was rough. Luckily, before I came back to the room, I had been shown bathrooms where I could relieve myself and bathe properly. At least hygiene wouldn't be an issue. I had bathed in crystal clear water before returning to my room and flopping into bed like a bum. Like a bum! I heard the door open and close, followed by the soft pattern of labored footsteps walking around the bed and stopping on the other side. I knew it was Erik, but I turned my head to verify my guess. I was correct. However, I felt my face flush at the sight. He's shirtless again! Yay! Erik was shirtless and his skin was beautifully covered in water droplets. Oh. I'm gonna just continue. His hair was damp and his breathing was labored. He must have trained hard, if not harder than me at least, and bathed right afterward. Hi.
Good evening, love.
I could tell that he wanted to flop onto the bed and simply pass out, but something held him back. I tilted my head at him, making Erik smile.
I'm going over what happened today.
And?
Do you feel disgusted by me?
No! You need to get that in your head. I am not disgusted. I do not feel disgusted by you. I love you. You're my bae. Okay? Okay. I kept my eyes on Erik, letting my mind wander a bit over him. I still loved him and didn't feel the need to yell at him or push him away. I had to assume the spirit was still resting from Sarah's attack. Nope. Erik nodded before climbing into bed and leaning back against the bedpost. Cuddle. Stay right. Cuddle! We're going to cuddle the shit out of him because I love cuddles. Cuddles are nice. I settled close to him and placed my head on his shoulder. Erik smiled and wrapped an arm around me, holding me close.
It's been a long while since I've trained like that.
Since Malik's, right? Erik nodded with a smile at me. I remembered Malik's, that damnable monster. He had wanted to kill the boys and even kidnapped me as bait. Luckily, he didn't last long. Thanks to Erik and his lovely tendrils. Ugh. During the time he was around, though, Erik had trained hard and done the best he could. I was kind of proud to see him going at it again. I yawned and got ready for bed. There was no use in prolonging sleep. The darkness welcomed me into its embrace as Erik wrapped his arms around me protectively. Oh my god, it's crying! Huh? The cries of the spirit vibrated through my mind. I knew Erik would take a bit to enter my dreams, but I could only look around as the sound of the spirit whimpering echoed around me in the dark. Hello?
Go away!
Finally, the orb appeared. It wasn't bobbing up and down in the air like it usually had before. It was lying on the ground, like a ball. I walked over and crouched before sitting down in front of it. The sound of its whimpers made my heart hurt. Did Sarah's attack really hurt it that badly? Even more than that, it was apparently a child. I'm sorry. I want to say it. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I am. I winced a bit at its words. I was trying to be sincere, but I had to assume the spirit was too hurt to care.
Why did you do that?
We just wanted to try and get you out of my body.
Why did you hurt me?
I didn't mean to. I wanted to get you out. Every word the spirit spoke felt like a knife through my heart. I didn't mean to hurt it, but we had to try. I was certain the intention of the attack was to expel the spirit, not hurt it.
You're just like him.
Like him? You mean Erik?
No. The evil man.
Evil man? Evil man? Wow, look at that. Exact words. I stared as the spirit gently lifted itself off of the ground and began to slowly bob up and down in front of me.
The evil man that killed me.
Oh. Who might that be? Oh my god, no. The demon lord killed you? What? No. I am nothing like that. There are so many words I want to say, but let me not. If you relate me to him, I swear to God. My body froze as I suddenly heard the demon lord's laughter all around me. The voice bounced through the air, sending wave upon wave of fear through my body in an endless cycle. However, the spirit didn't react. Was the spirit causing the voice? The spirit lowered itself back onto the ground and laid still. The purple aura around it still rippling around it. I cannot say my words. Wow.
You're gonna hurt me again.
No, I'm not. No, I won't. I didn't want it to be hurt. Expelling it was one thing. Causing it pain was another. There had to be some way to force it out without hurting it any more than we already did. Erik! I felt a hand suddenly place itself on my shoulder and the demon lord's voice faded into silence. I quickly turned to see Erik, looking down at me with a concerned expression.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
The icky man is back.
He's not icky. Stop it. Erik ignored the spirit and gently turned my body to face him.
Don't listen to whatever that spirit says. We'll expel it soon enough.
You don't care about her. You just care about babies.
Oh, jeez. Not this shit again. Ah, no. Stop, please. Okay. I stared as, instinctively, Erik summoned his tendrils, ready to attack, but his expression melted into concern. Something was holding him back, and it made me a bit worried. I think he meant me. Okay. Was the spirit telling the truth? The spirit simply faded into the dark without continuing the conflict, leaving us alone. Erik?
Yes, my princess?
Nothing. I need to ask. As much as this pains me, even though I kind of want it to happen, but at the same time, I don't know. Just ask. Do you want me to be pregnant? I had to know. He reacted so violently towards the spirit at the mention of children. Erik's face, however, contorted from the concern it melted into a look of confusion.
Where is this coming from?
I just want to know. Erik sighed and nodded, making a small lump in my stomach harden. He really wanted me to be pregnant? Before I could speak, though, Erik raised his head with a kind and soft smile.
I would be happy to have you bear my children and for you to be a wonderful mother, but not unless you want to. You would be the one bearing the burden the longest.
That is true. He's got a point. My heart skipped multiple beats. I was shocked at his words. Erik continued.
In the demon world, it is a regular occurrence for incubi and succubi to breed as often as possible. It's only natural that I'd want children, princess. However, you are a human, and even more so, you are the one I love. I obey your every command.
Aw, that warms my heart. Yes. Before my eyes, Erik slowly wrapped his arms around my form and kissed my forehead. The warmth of his embrace made my entire body melt, but I wrapped my arms around him in return.
We're not even married yet. We can probably wait until after we say our vows before we think about children.
Smart. This man is smart. See how smart he is? Thinking about marriage first before children. That's the way to go. Yes. This is why. This is why I love him more. Because he's smart. A small laugh erupted from me as I nuzzled Erik's chest. He was right. We didn't have to think about it now. I shouldn't have let the idea get to me. Right. I nodded in reply, just wanted to completely immerse myself in Erik's arms. The night passed by and morning rose. To my surprise, I woke up alone. I scanned the room for Erik, but I found myself in the room by myself. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna end it here for this episode, and we'll continue Erik's route in the next video. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, then click subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.